Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. We're gonna go like right into Jeremiah, but what I wanted to start off with this week as I was meditating, and this has been on my mind, and I feel like so much, and you guys can probably attest to this as well. When you're reading and you're reading where Yah has you reading and you're studying where Yah has you studying, they always talk about how like art imitates life. I feel like our lives often begin to like fuse in with the scripture. And I felt like it's always so on time, I guess, for me, when what we're studying aligns with what's happening in the world, what's happening as far as like the world's traditions or what's going on, and how it always serves as a fortification, of our place and what we're supposed to be doing. And so as I was studying this week, I was less concerned because I felt a little overwhelmed. Life can do that. I was less concerned with like deep spiritual insight, and I was so much more concerned with just hearing what Yah had to say and how he had to say it. And I realized as I was like really tuned in that way that a lot of what is being done when we're going through these studies, or when we're going like 2 Samuel, 1 Samuel, and now Jeremiah, it's not like Yah is special, I'm not. Yah's word is special, I'm not. I'm special to Yah, I believe that. But what I mean by that is what I'm getting out of the word. And people ask, like, how'd you get that? What I'm getting is because I'm taking my time in it. And I'll tell you, Yah gives the increase too, because sometimes time doesn't feel like it's there. But as we take our time and we work through it and we read through it and we filter things through a loving, precise, and deeply involved with our human experience, Elohim, what we're going to kind of experience today is what comes out of it. As I'm reading, the more I read, I realize why I have to. I told you guys when I'm going through these, I read through it in Hebrew. It takes me some time. I'm not fast at it at all. Because Yah's voice is heard in his language. I'm not saying we can't hear Yah, obviously, when we read in English, because of course we do. We've been hearing him. But the tone and what is being said and how he says it and how he means it is heard when we're reading it in its original language. And so there's nothing special about what I do when I'm conveying to you, in my opinion. Somebody would beg to differ. What I'm conveying to you, I'm conveying it to you culturally and contextually in line with what he's saying. That's why sometimes it sounds like more is happening as we're reading. And I keep the words up for two reasons. One, I don't have any business teaching you anything that's not in the text. That's above my pay grade, right? That's not it. So people are like, why don't you deal with this? Because I deal with language and I deal with the heart of Yah. And the heart of Yah is revealed in his word. And that's the extent of my expertise, if you want to call it that. There may be other people who have some additional secret passageway to Yah. That's not me. It's right here. It's right here. It's right here. And it's right here in a lot of ways on the surface. Now, in English, we could say it's right below the surface. So this week, we're jumping right back in with Jeremiah, and he's preaching, remember, his first sermon, his first message. He's standing out. He's out talking to the people. And I want us to center that. I want us to kind of center that in our mind, because we kind of take a break. Like it was like, oh, pause on Jeremiah's message, even though it was one complete thought for him. We paused on it. And I want us to kind of get into our mental portal, transportation portal, going back in time. And I want us to feel like we're sitting right there. There's going to be things that I explain to add culture and context, because there's some words I know we read over, like there's a word called upshod. And I was like, what is a upshod, or unshod, I think is the word. I'm like, and we read over it because we can read it, but do we understand it? So we're going to take our time. This thought does not end until the 3rd verse of chapter 3. This complete thought. So those chapter breaks, we're actually going to ease a little bit into chapter 3. I'm going to try to move through it I don't want to move too quick because I already talk fast, but I'm going to move through the text. But I want you guys to really, really hear what Yah is saying. I want you to hear this as if you were standing in the audience or you were sitting out in the courtyard of Jerusalem, listening to this young prophet talk about how Yah's heart is literally breaking because his people have literally rejected him. And also think about the fact that Jeremiah is not a psychic. Jeremiah is not a magician. Jeremiah is not secretly listening to the walls of people's houses. So these words that Jeremiah is speaking from Yah are hitting people because these are often only people's thoughts and the intention in their heart. They've never been outwardly just spoken as such. And so when he's speaking, he's literally telling them, he's like, he literally gets to a point, and when we're going to read, so he's like, Yah says, I'm telling you this. I'm having him tell you this. But he's obviously Yah is saying, so that you feel a little ashamed. So when you hear some of the vulgarity of what's being said, don't think of it, because I have to say it how it's said, right? I'm gonna have to explain it how it's explained. It's not me being vulgar. Jeremiah had to say it like that because some things that are said should make you ashamed. And he's saying, you're doing these things and you're not ashamed. So I'm gonna have him say it so you feel ashamed. Have you ever had somebody read rap lyrics to you in front of your mama? It's kind of like that. Your favorite, the ones that get real ratchet, and you like, that's inappropriate. But you was listening to it. You ever had your kids take off the headphones and play their music out loud for everybody to hear? And they sit there and they be like, that's what this is. That's exactly what this is. And y'all's like, no, let's listen to it. Bring your grandma in the room. Bring your aunties in here. Let them hear what you be listening to. No, pull your TikTok up on the TV. Let them all see it. Let them see what you be doing. That is what this is. And I have to put it into that cultural and contextual context because not other cultures don't do that. That is so culturally specific. Most people are like, no, cover it up. And Yah's like, no. We're supposed to be living above board. We shouldn't have to conceal things. We should openly deal with things and do it in love, right? But sometimes love, right, is embarrassing. And so there's some embarrassing moments today. There's some embarrassing ones. All right, let's get into it. We left off last week right around chapter 19. And the main thing that we left off with was those broken cisterns. He's like, you're trusting in broken things. You're going to Egypt. You're trying to find any way to be saved instead of doing what is right. It's like the frame of the mind. And he's talking about drinking these waters, and he's like, and you're drinking from these waters. And he's like, but I'm living water. And at verse 19, we ended off, and it was like on a solemn end. He says, your own wickedness will correct you, and your own backsliding will reprove you. He's like, you did this. So the consequences that you're going to suffer are going to be what brings you back. And he's going to go further into it this week because it seems like Yah is like salty when he says that. It's like, you just leave us out here. And he's like, no, you have it, right? Because what you've done is evil and bitter, and you've forsaken me, and you don't fear me. So why should I do anything? Why should I? So opening up with verse 20, right in verse 20, Yah says, For of old time, I have broken your yoke. He's like, in the past, that's what I did. That's how I showed up for you. In the past, I broke the yokes off of you from all these other people that you've chosen to yoke with. And I've taken the shackles off. And you said, I will not transgress. And what is being said here when it says, I will not transgress? The word transgress is, the word is abstract. The proper word, and the Hebrew word here is eved. It's like, I won't serve. And they didn't get specific, right? They're like, I'm not going to serve. So he's like, after I broke the bands off you said, I'm not serving you though. Thanks. But serve you, no. The natural process of a person when a person saves them is to respond with service. Everybody does it. If somebody does something nice for you, the first thing normally, if you care about the person, you love them, you're like, I can't wait for the next opportunity that comes up where I can then repay them or do something back for them so I can serve them. That is a natural process that the brain goes through. Yah says, I broke your bands off. I broke the yokes of your oppressors off of you. And you said, I ain't gonna serve though. It's like, wow, really? Really? He said, but check this, semicolon, when upon every high hill and under every green tree, you wandered playing the harlot. Context. He says, you said you wasn't going to serve. Like, I'm not doing nothing. He said, but I broke the bands off of you. I ain't serving nobody. I'm good. And then you went and served other gods. That to Yah, and that to us, right, would drive us crazy. We get upset if we're parents or aunties and uncles, employers, whomever. And you ask somebody, you say, hey, I've bent over backwards. I've done da-da-da-da. You didn't have to say anything. You just did it. And then you ask them to do something for you and they go, I'm not doing that. You're like, whoa. Every time you ask me to do something, I do it. I ask you to do something small. Don't be a harlot. And you go, oh, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. Like, wait, not that I can't serve you. I'm not going to serve you. I'm going to choose to serve someone else. You help me, but instead of serving you, I'm going to take my service to the very things that put me in bondage. And what is crazy is that it literally baffles Yah. And Jeremiah, as he's speaking this, people are like, okay, then the prophet's just coming with something off the hip and Yah's just fussing at the people. Yah has already talked to his people about this. If you don't believe me, let's go look. Let's go to, where do we want to start? Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 12. Let's start there. It's not the first time Yah's been like, hey, serve me, not other people and other things. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 4, Yah says, ye shall not do so unto Yah your Elohim, period. And he goes, but you are to do what I say in the place I say to do it. So because they can't do what they want to do, they're just like, well, because you won't accept this as service toward you, and this is what I want to do, I'll just keep serving other gods then. That was their heart and their mind. I know that sounds insane. Sounds insane, right? But we're going to keep reading. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 29 and 26. Talking about his people. For they went and served other gods and worshiped them, gods who they knew not and whom they had not, who Yah had not given unto them. And literally it says that Yah's anger was kindled against this land to bring upon it all the curses that were written in this book. And Yah rooted them out of their land in anger and in wrath and in great indignation and cast them into another land as it is this day. So if we go back just for context, right? Let's go up. Let's see. Okay. Yah said he will not spare him, but then the anger of Yah and his jealousy shall smoke against that man. So he's talking about people who don't hark against the word, curses, and so forth. You go back up to 29. He says, so that the generation to come of your children that shall rise up after you, and the stranger that cometh from a land off, shall say, when these plagues are on the land, and the sickness which Yah has laid upon it, and that the whole land thereof is brimstone and salt and burning, that it is not sown, nor beareth, nor any grass groweth there, like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, Adman Zeboim, which Yah overthrew in his anger and his wrath, even all the nations shall say, why has Yah done this unto this land? And what meaneth of this great anger? He was like, I won't let it stand. I won't let it stand. So when you hear what Jeremiah is saying, he's not talking just from this place in his heart because he's just invoked to anger because the people are disobeying Yah. He's literally speaking of Yah, and he's warning them of what he said he would do if they did the things that they are doing. He's literally warning them about it. And he's like, you cannot serve other gods. You cannot forsake the covenant. The rules have not changed. And the people are like, yeah, but we're not going to serve Yah. And he's saying this out loud. So can you imagine, like, in your mind, somebody coming to you and being like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. That's against Torah. And you go, oh, okay. And in your mind, you're like, huh, yeah, okay. I'm going to do what I'm doing. Jeremiah is speaking out loud what people have already purposed in their minds and in their hearts. And he says, you've learned to do, or you've learned the way, and you do what other gods want and desire you to do, but it like hurts you to do what I ask you to do. It bothers you, like it irritates you, it agitates you that you're being told to serve Yah. And what's interesting, and we were kind of chatting about this before we hopped on, it is almost opposite, if you will. It's almost opposite, where it hurts, where people are honest, it hurts to not participate in what the world is doing. It hurts. It's like, oh, I wish this wasn't bad because it looks so good. Oh, I wish that they would take all the pagan out of it and it could just be a time where there wasn't, it hurts. It bothers us. It's like, it's an irritants. It's like, ah. And we often wish we could perform for Yah in the ways that we did before, because it wouldn't hurt so bad to be on the outside, and it wouldn't hurt so bad to be marginalized. It wouldn't hurt so bad to have to do something different. And what Yah is saying is, you shouldn't have learned those ways anyway. They were never supposed to be taught to you. You were never supposed to learn them. Didn't mean that you would never see them, right? Back in Deuteronomy, in Joshua or Judges, one of those, he says, I'm going to leave these nations here to prove you. See if you love me. I'm going to leave it right in your face. It's not that it's never going to not be in your face. They're here for a reason. I'm proving something in you. But it hurts you to be proven. It hurts you to prove that you love me. It hurts you to have to stand with me on this side. But it doesn't hurt us not to serve Yah. That same feeling that we have when we get irritated when people are doing what they're doing, it doesn't hurt us the same way when we don't fall in line the way we're supposed to for Yah. The same irritants that we get when we see people serve other gods, we don't get that same irritants in us when we're not serving the Elohim that we're supposed to know. And so when you're looking in the text and he's like, you said you're not going to serve, but in your attitude, you're just as bad. You're not, they were doing it, but you can be just as bad as them if you're not actually doing what I said to do. It's one thing to see it and despise it, but then deep in your heart really want to do it. For some people, if today Yah was like, actually, you know what? You read and somebody taught it real good, and they were like, you can eat all that stuff. And you can celebrate all that stuff. Most people are like, oh, Ben, going to get my Christmas tree tomorrow. I'm going to do this tomorrow. Because a lot of people, serving Yah has become a burden because it comes with what they feel like restrictions, but you don't really see everything that's underneath it. So Yah is like, you said you weren't going to, I did all this, and you're like, I'm not going to, and the word here transgress isn't fit. I'm not going to serve. He said, not only did you not serve me for bursting your bands and doing all these things, but then you went and you played the harlot everywhere like I didn't see you. You think I'm not looking, and you think you're not doing it in my face. Remember, the context of this conversation, how Yah sets it up, is Israel is a bride. He's talking like a husband to a wife. And he's saying, remember when we loved each other and everything was all good? And now all of a sudden, after all this, like, I'm wicked. And I haven't asked anything different. And I've done everything I said I was going to do for you. He said, to the point that, verse 21, I planted you as a noble vine. He's like, right. He's like, I know what I planted. I didn't plant like, oh yeah, I just planted a bad seed. He said, no, I planted a good seed. And then you turned into some strange plant from a strange vine. Like you literally, because of your whoredom and your practices, your actual DNA and how you were structured began to change. He's like, how? How did that happen? People don't think about it like this, but the practices and the things that we do and how we interact literally change the expression of our DNA. There's a term, and I always butcher it, but I think it's myelithianation. And there's like switches on the outside of your DNA strand, and they are triggered to switch on and off. That's where that idea of epigenetic or transmutational trauma comes from. It's not just that like your DNA strand changes, but something is turned on like a light switch when you experience things. And once that light switch is turned on, it then gets passed down. There was a study once with a mouse, and when the mouse was that's where the actual study comes from, the original study. A mouse was in a lab, and they put sugar in water, if I'm not mistaken. And when the mouse went to drink the water, they would shock the mouse. Every time the mouse went, they would shock the mouse. The mouse got pregnant, and the mouse had children. They didn't shock the mouse while the mouse was pregnant. When the mouse gave birth to, it was either a scent or the sweet, it was something like that. When the mouse gave birth to its children, whenever that scent or whatever that sweet thing happened, the children would act afraid too, having never experienced what the parent experienced. So experience changes how we interact, or how we respond to our environment. So when it comes to sin, right? And when it comes to behaviors, you had Yah say, no, I took you out and I gave you positive experiences. I gave you the opportunity to learn. I showed you, I've broken your bands. I've dealt with you and your trauma and how you are inclined because of the sinful ways of your parents to do these things. I've dealt with it, and I made you whole and right. And then you turned and you reactivated these things within you by participating in doing these practices. So when we talk about disrupting generational curses and breaking these generational curses, we think there has to be this whole amazing experience that and somebody's going to give you an award for it, but it really is to stop doing the things that cause the negative expression in the first place. Because when you do it, then you pass it on, and add to that then your children watching you do it. So now you have not only a genetic, if you will, predisposition, but then you also have a nurture element where you're being trained and taught how to do it. And Yah was like, you see, you don't realize that it's in you, not on you. So in verse 22, verse 22, he says, see, you think that you can just wash it off. Like you can just go, and because I didn't know you was creeping with your side master, and you can go and participate in these things, and you can defile your body, and then you kind of feel guilty about it. So you take niter, I'll explain that in a second, and you take soap, you can wash it off. He said, but your iniquity, it's literally a stain in front of me. See, because it's now impressed upon you, and it's no longer just on the surface. And so you can't get rid of it, only I can get rid of it, but you won't even acknowledge that I'm the one that's been doing what I've been doing from the beginning. To keep it in context, I told you it's culture and context, and the conversation is being driven this way. We read over things, right? What is niter? I don't know. I didn't know either. Niter is actually an alkaline potash, or a type of high alkaline liquid that's often found in salt seas that have evaporated. And they are used to cleanse. It's almost as potent as ammonia. And what would happen is it's like what we call, if you've ever made soap, we use, after all this soap making, we use a sodium something or another. I can't remember what it is. And it actually, if you can't touch it on your skin, it's caustic, but you mix it with fats, and that's how you actually get soap. This niter specifically, this particular type in its natural form, is actually found in Egypt. So he was like, oh, you think you can use the cleansing agents of the nations and the gods you went whoring away with to wash off what you've done with them and how you've served them and their gods. And you can just come back to me into my house and get into my bed, get back with me, and like nothing ever happened. But just like a man or a woman who knows when their spouse has been out, yeah, I was like, I see it. See, you don't realize it's changed how you treat me. It's changed how you engage with me. It's changed how you feel toward me. It changed how, when we're intimate, it don't feel the same anymore. See, you thought you washed off your whoredom, and you washed off what you were doing as a harlot, and you had an alkaline diet and alkaline soap that when you was out doing what you was doing, I didn't notice it. Yeah, I was like, none of that stuff. That's for your physical body. And I'm not just an Elohim. I'm not just a husbandman that is dealing with the physical nature of who you are. I'm also dealing with your soul, and your soul and your genetic expression, your love towards me has changed because of what you've been doing. You have changed on a level deeper than you even know, because those practices that you feel like are innocent, and those practices that you feel like bring you so much joy, and, well, you know, I'm just doing what I'm doing. Yeah, those things, I can see them plainly even when you hide them. He said, you go as far as to say, oh, he says, you go as far as to say, I'm not polluted. I haven't gone after Balaam. It's so interesting. And like I said, it's a time period and it's where we are, but it's a reality all the way across the board. When it comes to sin, and I'm talking about real sin, I'm not talking about like, oh, the sins that we try to make sins because those are the ones that are easy for us to not do. So we kind of, you know, we put an emphasis on it when other people do it. I'm talking about the things that we dismiss, the things and the practices that we push to the side, and the things and the practices that we watch our families and other people push to the side. So in an effort to make it plain, and so we don't have to really deal with ourselves in this moment, because we're gonna get there, I'm gonna pull something out that's very, 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 very real for right now. We're in the season of Yule, right? Which is also Christmas, which is also Christmas time, which is also every other thing that it's attached to, because it doesn't have a root that is rooted in Scripture. If you don't believe me, you do a simple Wikipedia search, type in Christmas, and when it says related to, it's going to give you a long list of things that Christmas is related to. And most of those things on there never went back to the Bible. It's Germanic, it's European in origin. Just giving you that. Go on there, though, use Wikipedia, same way, because it's an easy way for us to get what we're looking for, right? And then type in any of the biblical feasts, and then go see what it says related to. It's the most amazing experience ever. All right, so you have that. You have those two things juxtaposed. So he goes, you say, I'm not polluted. I'm not gone after Balaam. Many of us have been in this position where either we've been this person or we've talked to these people. Most of us have been both. And a person says, hey, what you're doing is actually, it's rooted in paganism. You go, I'm not doing anything pagan. I wouldn't do anything pagan. I'm not worshiping Baal. I'm not polluted. How dare you? I'm worshiping Christ. I'm worshiping God. See, when you read it and you just think, it's like, oh, nobody ever says that. How can a person be literally worshiping Baal and be like, I'm not worshiping Baal? People do it every day. People literally do it and they mean what they're saying. He's like, the very thing that you're doing, but when I tell you you're doing, you're like, that's not what I'm doing. And they mean it. Like literally, this is people's response to Yah, where Yah is like pricking them and convicting their hearts while they're doing it. the stuff that we don't hear and see because they are being convicted. And they're literally responding to Yah like this. This is not just what people are saying to you. Yah is interjecting on people's human experiences because he loves them and he's telling them and he's pricking their hearts. They go, this is not pagan. I know I heard them say it, but this is not pagan. They're wrestling with this in cognitive dissonance. And they're saying, I'm not going after Baal. Like, there's no way I'm buying Christmas gifts for my family and for my cousins and for my kids, and I'm seeing them happy and smiling. And okay, no, I don't believe in Santa Claus. And no, I don't, like, you know, they try to pick away the things because we all done it. We try to take away the things that we feel like are really, really pagan and try to keep the stuff that's not. And they were like, I'm not serving Baal. I'm not bowing my knee to Baal. Stupid people tell me, when you bow down to a Christmas tree, you're teaching your kids to go get gifts from under an idol. That's not me. That's not me. And Yah's like, okay, all right, that's what you're saying. So Yah goes on, he says, see your way in the valley and know that thou hast done it. He's like, see it, you know you're doing it. And he says, and then this is where I told you it gets a little vulgar. So he flips it. He's like, because you can't see it how you're doing it right now. So this whole piece right here is cultural and contextual. If you ever want to see what this looks like, I want you guys to go on to the part I'm not going to show you. I want you guys to go on YouTube and just look up camels in heat or female camel in heat, because I'm not going to show you that. I wouldn't put up the video if I did, but I am going to show you, because I've seen this, what goats and donkeys look like and what the picture Jeremiah's put in their head. So Jeremiah is like, you know how you look? You know how Yah knows that you're lying? He said, because you act like an animal in heat. He says, imagine being out, and Jeremiah speaking, and you're like, okay, I'm with it. You went from playing the harlot under every green tree. That hurt. All right, you were a strange vine, and now okay, and your iniquity, and you tried to wash off with soap, and it's like, yeah, you know, I do. Okay, I get that. I get that. This part, it's like, Jeremiah, you took it too far. He says, you are a swift dromedary. It's a swift camel traversing her ways, showing that she's in heat. So what camels do when they're in heat, it's kind of the same thing with other animals, but male camels, right? They have this sac in their mouth and it fills up with air and it comes out and their mouth gets all foamy. It gets all foamy. It's really ugly. And when female camels are in heat, she lifts up her tail, her lady part region gets enlarged, and she pees down her leg to let the camel know that she's in heat. And so Jeremiah is saying, remind you, this is their culture. They have camels. He's evoking a mental picture. He's like, that's how y'all look. You saying you're not doing these things and you're saying you're not participating, but it's seen all over you. Just how we can tell when a camel is in heat, you act like you're in heat behind these other gods. Like you want them so bad. So people are like, this young guy just got a mouth on him, right? So he continues on. He goes, a wild ass is like a donkey, used to the wilderness. This is a more English translation. What he says is, you're trained up in the ways. You used to be, you're a wild animal who, I'm gonna say it just like I'm gonna say it. You a hoe that you used to be in a hoe. That's literally what he says. Like you're an animal. You're like an animal who, this is your nature. You're acting like being a whore, both spiritually and physically, because remember, these practices come with both. You're acting like this is your nature. This is not your nature. I planted you a holy and right seed. So everything said after this, right, is true, that you were not raised up like this. This is how you're acting. And he says, and you snuff up the wind at your pleasure. So I am not going to make this face, because somebody somewhere is going to take this face that I would make and then put it all online. So I'm going to show you what donkeys and goats do when they are in heat. And you'll see just how offensive what Jeremiah said is. Oh my gosh. All right, here we go. This is a donkey in heat. Goats do it, donkeys do it, animals like this. If you've ever come out to the farm where I am, you'll see see how they sniff up the air? See, that's a cultural image that would be in a person's head. When I read it, I was like, oh, it's like when the goats, when they pee on their face, because they do, and they pee on each other and they sniff up the air. So they're sniffing each other and they're signaling, like, that's how he sees, like, this is how you look going after those other gods. Imagine how offensive that is. If somebody told you you look like that, you would be livid. You would be absolutely livid. Jeremiah is telling them, this is how you are. You're signaling to these other gods that this is what you want. Let me turn off my other screen. There we go. All right. He's like, you're putting it out there. And that's not a secret to Yah. See, it's like, I recognize it. Other people might be like, no. He's like, I can see it all on you. Like the camel, the female camel, I can see the pee running down your leg. I can see your nose sniffed up in the air. You want that. You have sought that. And it says that snuffeth up the wind at her pleasure, right? So you saw it. And he said, and in her occasion, when she's in heat, who can turn her away? He's like, you put it on and you want it so bad. It's not something somebody's going after you and making you do. You want it so bad that you're signaling. And guess what? They see it. And they're going to give that. They're giving you what you're asking for. So when you get to verse 25, it says, it says, withhold your foot from being unshod. The word here, this is an old English term, literally, don't let them undress you. Don't take your shoes off. Don't get comfortable. And he's like, and don't act thirsty. Like literally. He said, I told you this, like, don't do it, because then it's not them doing it to you. It's you asking for it. It's almost like, we were talking earlier this week. It's like almost like secret, what are those images? Like hidden images, where you accepted it before you really knew it because you were all into it. And then when it was time, you just let it happen. That is very much indicative of the times we're moving into, because a lot of people think, oh no, I'll be able to withstand in the last days. No, it won't, because it's in your deed. Okay, I know I'm doing the practice of the world right now, but when it comes down to it, when it comes to taking the mark of the beast and like rejecting Christ, I'm not gonna have any part of that. And Yah's like, you've already done it. You're already in heat. You already turned up and turned on by the way of the world. How are you going to choose against it? I hope there's no children on here. Most of us in here are married women or women of age to know what it feels like to go through puberty and have your hormones turned on. What do the older people say? Don't put yourself in a position where you have to choose to not fornicate, because once you get to that point, it's going to be hard to say no. Yah is like, don't engage, because once it's activated, it's difficult to say no. If you're a woman who is abstinent, if you're a woman who's, in a process of restoring herself, you already know. Now it's something that you have to work through. That's where we are. Our whoredom has now activated something in us to now we have to reject what feels like a natural urge toward the ways of the world and toward a paganism, because we've laid in bed with it. That's why he uses the term whoredom. You've had literally spiritual fornication, and now you're turned on. And so now you're fighting now against the nature of who you are to now go against it. That's why it feels that way. That's why it feels like that. That's the equivalent, if you will. He says, you used to it. You trained in it. You're learned in these ways. Your body is reacting the way your body is supposed to react when the songs come on. You're getting all ready for this encounter that is spiritually, sexually perverse. And behind the practices it is. That's why it feels that way. That's why it does something. It feels, why? Why? And it's so interesting, because we're so much more attracted to the things that make us feel that way. And not to put anybody out there, I'll put myself out there. But if you have engaged in those actions premaritally, and then you get with a real good man, and you're not doing all these other things, you're not hiding and sneaking and doing things you're not supposed to, it takes a restoration of your heart and of your mind for you to actually engage in purity, because it doesn't have all this weird and dark connotation behind it. It's not sneaking, it's not creeping, there's something about the deceit. So then you don't want the good man, and you keep worrying about what you was getting over there. And then you're upset. That's the same way Yah's like, Jeremiah's putting it out there. Like, Yah is this good husband that you've had, but since you like the nasty stuff, and since you like the secret, and since you like the going off on every green hill and being the side chick, you done got your own man, you don't even want him. You want to keep being the side chick. He's like, this is crazy. Like, I've done everything to set you up so where you can hold your head high, but you still want to act like how you were before. He said, I told you don't act thirsty, and stop, don't take your shoes off. Don't let your foot be unshod. Don't take your shoes off. Don't get comfortable around these other gods and around this perverseness. He said, but you said, this is crazy. Yo, if I wasn't reading it, I swear you guys think I was making it up. Like, we'll just make up stuff. He said, you said, I don't care. They say there is no hope. So, I hear you, but I don't care. Nope. For I love strangers. That's what literally, like, Jeremiah's like, after I talked about how you looked and how you got your nose snipped up and you're peeing all down your leg and you like, so isn't that also indicative of the way that the women today are carrying themselves? The culture today is like, and I'm gonna get mine, and I'm gonna do, and the city girls and the Glorillas and everybody else, that is the culture. Yep, I know. I'm a da-da-da-da-da. That is the, so ain't no hope for me. Nope. I love it. I like it. And look what they said. There is no hope. Nope. For I love strangers. Like, put it in the face. Like, sure did. Women ain't even ashamed no more. Before, women would cheat and was acting like hookers and hoes. It was a woman still carried herself like a woman, at least. Now you act like dromedaries and wild asses. And then you got the nerve to, when somebody confronts you about it, say, you can't shame me. What, you trying to shame me? No, nope, sure did. I got 3, 4, 5, 10, 15. That's what I'm doing. And then this part right here, and I don't know why I hear it in this voice. That's probably very, very culturally inappropriate. But, and then the verse, it says right here, and after them will I go. And in the Hebrew, it says, and I'm going to do it. That's what the term means. In English, says, and after them will I go. No, this is a very in your face. It's ugly. The attitude is ugly. There's no hope for me. Nope. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Yep. I love it. And I'm going to do it. That is how that literally is spelled out in the Hebrew language. It's not, and after them will I go. It says, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm bold about it. I don't care if you know, yep, I was with your friend. Yep, I'm out here with my clothes off because you know what it is. It's a literal, like, you think that they were, like he said, homeborn slaves or homemade whores. And he's like, I didn't raise them like that. That's not the seed that's in you. That's not it. You've been trained up like that, not only by the gods you worship, but also what your moms and your dads taught you, because they're behaving the same way. It changed your genetic expression. It took a good seed and it made it corrupt. They said, we're going to do it. And verse 26 says, as the thief is ashamed when he is found. Like, you know, when robbers, when you caught, you like, dang it, you don't want to be caught. He says, so are you ashamed? Because at this point, when Jeremiah talking, they like, did he know me? Did he see me? No social media. They weren't on TikToking. They weren't Instagramming. They weren't Facebooking their indiscretion. They getting red, if you will. He says, you be ashamed. Just like when a thief is found, you're trying to hide it. A thief doesn't want to get caught. This generation is so perverse that they don't care about getting caught. Back here, at least they had a little dignity. They went off under trees and hills, right? But Yah's calling out their heart. Their heart is the social media, right? Their heart is on full blast before Yah. And he said, just like a thief, when they're caught, they're ashamed, right? He said, so is the house of Israel ashamed. And he's looking, he's like, you kings, your princes, your priests, your prophets, calling everybody. He said, but guess what? I see you. And this part right here, you can't get around it. Everybody goes to Jeremiah 10, but if you just needed a little extra ammunition, here it is. Saying to a stock. I like how the English language loves to cover things up because that is the nature of Old English. It was never to condemn the ways of the king, great old King James, and the way of the church that was instrumental in the translation. But we can read now, and we got resources. So verse 27 says saying to a stock. It's the Hebrew word, and the Hebrew word here is eitz. And what is it, eitz? A tree. It's a tree. It's a tree. So he's saying it can also be translated as trees or timber or stock or stick or wood, because people like to say, you know, things could be or couldn't be something. Yes, there are multiple translations, but he says, saying to a tree or a stock, you are my father. Oh, Christmas tree. Oh, how lovely. You sing into it, you love it, you love it. Singing to things that are nothing. And he says, saying that you are my father. See, if you understand Hebrew, you get this little play on words things. This thing that is, Ab is supposed to uphold a house, right? And then you bring the tree in over your Elohim like it's upholding your house. You bring the stock in, you bring another pole in replacement for your own. In the same way that when you change your man for a side dude, you're replacing his pole for your own. It's a play. He's saying to that, oh, you my daddy. And to a stone that you have brought me forth. Because clearly you think that this is what's sustaining you if you'll go from what's living and what's real towards something that isn't. He says, you have turned your back unto me. So you don't realize how vile that is, and how foul. I said foul, like it was like two things together. How vile and foul that is. Because how worship works, because these are practices of worship. How worship works is worship cannot be done to two things at the same time. Yeah, it's like, I'm not showing up for your threesome. I'm not showing up for it. So to choose that means to reject me because I'm not playing your games. How worship works is you have to bow down to what you're worshiping. The Hebrew word is shakah. You can't bow down to two things unless they agree to stand side by side, and Yah stands side by side with no other God. So you're bowing down to that and that alone because Yah's not showing up for your perverse show. You can't bow down to one and the other. No man can serve two masters. That's why he's like, don't do to me like they do to their gods. If you don't believe that's a verse, let's go ahead and go to Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 30. He says, take heed to yourselves that you be not snared by following them. See, to follow them is a trap. It's a trap for you. After that they be destroyed from before thee, because they got destroyed, and that you inquire not after their gods. Remember, I told you guys in my little Hanukkah thing, if you haven't seen it, it's not my culture. To do the practices that the world does. Look, I go as far as this. I don't condemn you for doing what you do. I can't do what you do though. Why? Because my Elohim said, I can't inquire after your Elohims, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? I told you what to do. Find the origins. When you trace it back and it becomes Germanic, when it becomes Germanic, which is, remember, linguistic branches and table of nations, when it becomes other nations and other nation practices, that should be a no. That was why people didn't like Hebrews. That was why throughout the text, if you go through, they said, man, these people over here, they don't listen to nobody but Yah. Even if that's the ones that it's hard. They're not going to get on board with the Mead and the Persian way. They're just not going to do it. They got this thing where they like, we can't. This is why. This is why, right? He says, don't go asking, how did these nations, how did the Germans serve their God? Oh, they did Yule, and they had Krampus, and they had Black Pete. It's a no. It's an automatic no. If it says, oh, this goes back to this, then it's like, I can't do that. I'm sorry. Why? Because Yah tells you why, and that's because he loves us. He says, wait, let me finish this. Don't go and say, how do these nations serve their gods? So I can do so likewise. I like how you do that to your God. That's nice. I'm gonna do that to mine. I think my God, Yah's like, absolutely not. I don't want it. He says, thou shalt not do so unto Yah your Elohim, for every abomination to Yah, which he hates, have they done unto their Elohims, for even their sons and daughter they burnt in the fire to their gods. He was like, I hate what they do. Don't do that to me. Don't do that and say you're doing it to me. It's an abomination to me. It makes me sick. And it's transformed now from a literal practice, if you will, of sacrificing your children, because they're like, I'm not sacrificing my children. I didn't put them on Moloch's hands and I didn't put them down to the, he's like, nope, you didn't, but you're setting them up for it. So now, because it's not happening right now, it's not so bad. It's the same thing. The end is the same result. Just, Yah's judgment is delayed. If you think I made it up, let's keep reading. So he says, saying to a stock, you're my God. Saying, to a stock, you're my father. To a stone, you have brought me forth. They turn their backs and unto me and not their face. I want your face to me. I want you to keep your eyes locked on me. You won't do it because you're shamed, right? Really, he's like, you're ashamed because you won't. You're doing it in secret. You're hiding. But in the time of their trouble, they will say, this one's good. They will say, arise and save us. He said, you turn your back to me. You give your worship to other gods. And then, and I liked how it sounded in Hebrew. Let me find it. That's verse at the end of, that's the end of 27. He says, Kuma vahoshienu. He's like, come and save us. Kuma vahoshienu. Oh, now I'm savior. I'm Yeshua. I'm Hoshua. I'm supposed to come and cause you to be saved. But you was just, so look at how Yah responds. He says, but where are your gods that you made for you? Let them rise up. No. If they're so real and it feels so good and it's something that you just can't separate from, he said, tell them to come get you. That is the worst thing, by the way, to hear from anybody, let alone who you know to be the real Elohim. He said, no, get the gods you made. He never says, who are gods? He's like, you made them. You made them. Go get them. The ones that you said were supporting you, that were your father. These practices, they're my traditions and they're so deeply embedded in me. And that's why I love, because really when you break it down, it's so sad. It's so sad how pretty much most of the year, I'm talking about good people we consider good people. The best people, we're like, they're a good person. How could they? The best people will spit in Yah's face for some of these petty practices. I don't know good people who are like good to people. So it's the Tov, right? They're so functional all year long until they get real dysfunctional and weird. It's like that weird, why? Yeah, I was like, because that's like undercurrent all the time. They have these like little weird little things going on inside where they just like, I can be good until the music plays. I can be good until then. And then the same people, which is always interesting because I've been these people. I'm glad that I will have more years in front of me serving Yah than I'll ever have behind me not serving him. And that's just a blessing. But I used to be one of those people when I used to read the story of Nebuchadnezzar, when he built that image and the music played and the people bowed their knee to it. I would never. But then you would hear silver bells, silver bells. And all of a sudden what? Drop down to your knee. Okay. Because see, there's a few of us in this space, because this is recorded for those of you who watch it later, live on Zoom. There are a few of us who were never raised up to keep pagan practices. I knew from birth that it was pagan. I think I didn't grow up with a Christmas tree. Oh, but when I got my own place, that was one of the first things I got. First Christmas, boom, Christmas tree. Mom never bought one. Why? Because you're attracted to it and you're attracted to watching what other people do. You go after their idols. And I'm like, whoa, when I finally, it wasn't long. I think it was only 1 year. And it struck me, it hit me in my heart. I was like, I looked at that and said, they played music. I would never bow my knee. And here you are bowing your knee to the same mystery Babylon where the songs are played. And I'm not just picking on one particular practice, but this, I believe, is a particular practice that has a very strong hold on people. It's the hardest, it's the shortest, and it's the hardest to overcome. And it's the root of it. And that's why I'm mentioning it, because we can't see it anymore as Yule. I'm sorry, we don't see it anymore as Moloch. We don't see it anymore because it's been smoothed over. The practice no longer looks like child sacrifice. It no longer looks like orgies. No, the orgies only happen when you go to your Christmas party and you get drunk and then you accidentally sleep with a coworker. But we don't see that as an embedded internal epigenetic turn on that's happening because of the season. Doesn't seem like worship of the return of the sun or Saturnalia. It just seems like the worshiping of Christ's birth and beautiful lights. It doesn't seem like it anymore. And so back then, right, they knew what they were doing. Now you have people who are saying, I'm not worshiping Baal. My mama told me this was Jesus' birthday. I'm buying my kids gifts because I want them to remember Christ. Or you got people saying, I'm not buying you no gift. This is God's birthday. I heard a person tell their kids that. You don't get no gift today. This is God's birthday. You have people who have tried to frame it and make it right, but its origins and its roots are wicked. And so I'm using that because it's the only thing that we as a culture, and actually as a global culture now, unfortunately, have an idea of. We have an idea of it. So I don't want anybody to be like, well, I'm just picking on that. I'm not just picking on that. It's just applicable. He said, let those gods come. Let them save you in the time of trouble. Because you got as many gods, you got cities. You should have a whole army of gods, oh Judah. That's what he said. He said, wait, you got so many, how, call on them. You see the antagonistic part of it. He says, why are you pleading with me? You've all said you weren't going to serve me. You've all transgressed against me, saying, saith Yah. He's like, you've already done that. Why now, when you get in trouble, are you praying? Because what they were doing, right? It's like, I'm not going to stop doing this, but I really don't want Assyria and Egypt to come. Can I? Yeah, please don't let up. He's like, ask your gods to save you. Because clearly you don't want anything to do with me. And he says, on top of that, he says, no, because in vain have I tried to correct your children. They don't receive correction. And he said, and your own sword has devoured your own prophets. I've sent people to try to help you and you kill them. You kill them. He says, oh, generation, y'all, see the word of Yah. Go right back to what he's always going. Listen to it. Listen to the words. Have I been a wilderness? Have I been desolate? Have I been darkness and evil toward you? He said, then why do my people say that we are masters? We don't need to come to you. And it's funny because we live in a generation right now, so I make it applicable. I ain't picking on nobody, but I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. Where we got like the hoteps. See, you a God. Well, then save yourself then. What you still doing in the land of your captivity if you a God and you can transcend time and space and you are. So you see the teachings of the nations don't change. We just keep buying the same lies over and over again. Yah's like, why don't you call on call that Jesus you think coming out of the sky. Call on Yah and whoever you think you need to know that you a God. woman, you a goddess, you a queen, you a earth, you are it. He's like, go with that. Doesn't that work? Listen to what they've been telling you as you've been whoring with them. They tell you these things so they can sleep with you because they know women like to hear it because they're oppressed. Listen to that. Go with it. Go wash yourself with your soap. It's all good. Save yourself then, if what they're telling you is right. Or you can be obedient. I'll save you. Because they're giving you this. They're giving you I am the Lord. I am? Y'all lost your mind. We're in unks and talk about I am. You better watch Kyrie Irving. It says, when has y'all been darkness? But y'all said, we're not going to come no more to you. Because see, we went through slavery and you didn't show up. So it's your fault. He's like, wait, no. Time out. Let's rewind. Let's get the account right. He said, but no. I'm a God now. All right, you broke God. You oppress God. You God that can't raise yourself out. You God in a nation where you get slain in the street. Bet, wink. Like, sure. That's what y'all said. You want me to, you're saying, save me. Oh, and then at the same time, say, we done coming to you. Right. Oh, we'll lead ourselves. Let me see how it works out for you. He said, because while you're rejecting me, he said, it don't make no sense. He said, can a young lady forget her ornaments? Can she forget the thing that she puts on that lets people know that she's available? Because back in that day, there was women who were married dressed a certain way, women who were available dressed a certain way. Neither one were harlots, but it just, you had certain ornaments and certain things that you would be adorned with. It would either be particular head covering, there was a bride attire, there was a maiden attire. He's like, she don't forget when she go out to let people know that she's available. A young women don't forget to adorn themselves and wear their jewelry, right? Like we do nowadays. You don't forget. Just like a bride wants it to be known that she belongs to her husband. He said, yeah, my people, they go out day after day and they act like they don't know that I'm the Elohim. Like you would do it for a worldly purpose where you adorn yourself, you get all done up so you can be attractive. And he's like, but putting me on is not attractive. Letting people know your mind is not attractive. But then after you've done all you've done, you want me to come save you. Imagine the shame that would be felt if somebody, I mean, we've all got that talking to. Imagine Yah like a father, right? And imagine Yah like a husband. Where it's like, when you, oh, okay. So when I asked you to clean up your room and you rolled your eyes, now you need my money to go to the movies. Bad. Why'd you keep that same energy? Is what we would say in today's terms. He said, because you don't forget to get dressed. You don't forget those outward things, but yet I am giving you air to breathe that you don't even think about breathing. And I'm balancing the whole universe and still keeping you after you literally embarrassed me in front of the nations. And you forgot me days without number. I can't remember the last time y'all called on me. Remember he said that earlier. He says, why are you trying to put on for somebody else to get love? And I love you. He said, you doing all this. You're trimmest thou way. Like that's, I told you, this don't make sense. You're putting on to get love from people who just want to use you. The adversary is behind it, and he wants you to defile yourself so that I don't want you anymore, so that I will judge you and I will destroy you. That's what's behind it all. It's behind the man. It's behind everything that is trying to pull you away from me. The adversary wants you to be on the other side of my judgment. That's it. It's so simple. All the other stuff is just the intricate layers laid on top, so it doesn't just seem like that. I want Yah to hate you like he hates me. I want you to do the vile things that I've done so that you get the punishment I get. It sounds so petty, but believe me, you and I have had friends, had boyfriends, had all kind of situationships that fall into that same thing. I don't want to do it by myself. So I don't care if it means, oh, here, do this drug. They know that drug has them in the pits of hell, but then they'll give it to you. Why? So I have to be by themselves. Get high with me. Defile with me. This one is worse. He said, you did all this to seek love where there was none to be found. And this, I believe, is a mistranslation in English. He says, therefore hast thou also taught the wicked ones thy ways. I think it's a cover up. I literally believe, because the word for wicked ones is the word ra, and it's the same word for friends, but most people don't want to translate the word wicked and friend as the same thing because it's hard to put into place. It not only did you change up on me, you changed up on me. And then because people trusted you, because you were with the living Elohim, they thought it was okay. And so you taught your friends to do it too. You taught your friends your ways. And so we talk about how it's important for us not to. Our resistance is also the training of the people around me, because whether you think it or not, whether you think people are more influential over you or not, they're watching you. And when you slip and slide, guess what? They slip and slide too. Therefore, thou hast also taught your friends the ways, your ways. What? On how to seek after other gods. And then you're going to teach your children and your friends' children. He goes on to say, if you thought I was kidding earlier, he said, also in your skirts, because with the practice of paganism, and that word paganism is not like, actually pagan wasn't even a negative term, with the practice of paganism or the ways of the other nations, how they sought their gods, with those practices also comes death. Back then, they would literally sacrifice their children. Nowadays, you do it in the privacy of a Planned Parenthood. You can go off, you can be loose with your body, you can participate in the practices of free sex, and I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do culture. And he says, and then in your skirts are found the souls of the poor innocents. That's what's good. That is, the Bible says it begins, right? And then when it's fully conceived, sin, it becomes death. It just does. It's just the reality. And if it's not death now, then it's the death of your grandchildren, because then your children participate in these practices. It's the souls, and not just, maybe it's not even just a physical death, but now the soul of your child or your grandchildren or your niece or nephews are now inclined toward these practices. And so now the adversary don't even have to do something. He'd be like, the devil ain't doing nothing no more. We are perpetuating it. We're perpetuating it well enough that the adversary is on the bigger and better things. We have now become our own devils. The grandmas, the sweet, sweet grandma who just want to buy her kid a gift. The sweet, sweet grandmother who will whisper and say, baby, you too young to have a baby. I know you was doing that, but we can just go ahead and take care of it. They have now taken on the practices, and they are now the voices of the adversary. The adversary don't need to speak no more. His job is done. And you can't blame him for it. He's like, I can take the blame for the first person I got, but all the rest of y'all do it on autopilot. He says, and guess what? I didn't have to do a no-knock entry to see it. It's all on you. Nowadays, I don't know, I see a different world than some people. There are people who literally are dedicated to, they're just outwardly expressing, like, I kill babies. Like, that is my form of birth control. Ain't nothing wrong with it. There's a whole group of people out right now who call themselves pro-choice, who literally just say, like, it's a woman's right. It's a woman's right to take life. And people go, well, and you listen to all these practices and all these things behind it. Nobody gives the statistics, though, on how many women take the life or have abortions because of rape and incest, and the reasons that will make a lot of us go, well, that's a tough one, right? What are the actual numbers of people? Is it one night stands? Is it just being loose with your body? Is it failing to use protection? People don't want to hear it, and I'll stand 10 toes down on it. But those are not the things that are put out regarding what's happening. And he's like, I don't even have to look hard. to find out what you're doing. It's literally, you wear it on you. You wear it on you. He says, back to the beginning, but you say, I am innocent. He said, because he can't see it. Literally, that's what it's saying. Because you can't see it, and because I haven't been punished for it, peep that. Because I haven't been punished for it, surely God's anger has turned from me. That's what that means. Not I am innocent. It's like there's been no judgment exacted upon me for it. So Yah must not be mad at me. He says, on top of that, if we put it into another cult, because I don't see it happening to anybody. Everybody doing it. It's you're jacked up behind it. And check out the Yah we have. He says, behold, I'll plead with you then. I'm going to then, I got to talk to you then. Because you honestly believe that you haven't sinned. He's like, some of y'all really believe you haven't. Some of you are honestly deceived. He said, but most of y'all not. He said, because why are you doing so much to change who you really are? Why are you doing so much to hide it if ain't no sin in it? He said, you're going to be ashamed for these gods and these practices that you follow after, because they all go back to these same places and these same things. You're going to be ashamed of Egypt. You're going to be ashamed of Assyria. You're going to be ashamed of Babylon. You're going to be ashamed of Rome. You're going to be ashamed of America. He says, yea, you shall go forth from him, from these other places with your hand over your head. You're going to do these things and you're going to be ashamed because you did them. And he says, and you know what? And I've rejected the confidences. The word here for confidences is the word for like your trust, your trust in them. I didn't do that. And you're not going to prosper. I told you it continues on. We got 3 more verses and we're done. They say, because this is the continuation now, because remember we started off with the wife and we went through all this and now there should be ashamed. He's like, I'm saying this so that you will be ashamed and you'll stop and you'll turn away. They say if a man put away his wife, right? He says, and she becomes another man's, shall he return unto her again? It's not Jeremiah just preaching off the top of his head. So let's go see where Jeremiah got it from. Let's go to Deuteronomy 24. He's like right out of Deuteronomy. I think that's Deuteronomy 24 and 2. Uh-oh, too far. All right. So verse 1, when a man takes a wife and he married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanliness in her, let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand and send her out of his house. It's like, okay, that's just the law. Get this part, because I was like, I'm not playing with y'all. You're not going to just be doing this kind of stuff, just being petty, right? He says, and when she departs out of his house, this is Torah, she may go and be another man's wife. And if the latter husband, so then the second husband she gets, hates her and write her a bill of divorcement, be like, I don't want you no more, and give it in her hand and send her out of his house. Or if the latter husband dies, so now she's single and she fulfilled her duty, which took her to be his wife, her former husband, the one who wrote her the first letter, which sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife after that she is defiled, for this is an abomination before Yah, and you shall not cause the land to sin, which Yah hath given you for an inheritance. Okay, so Jeremiah is making a statement, and he's not just speaking just out of like the side of his neck, making a point. He's making a point. So now check this out. So he starts off with that. They say, not they say, it is said, Leomar, it's said in the word, not made up. If a man put away his wife and she go from him and become another man's, shall he return unto her again? Shall not the land be greatly polluted? This is just Torah being spoken plainly. Told you what is done is not some kind of trickery. He's speaking the word in plain terms so that the people understand what is being said. So he goes on, he says, but you played the harlot with many lovers. Ouch. And you return again unto me. Ouch. Saith Yah. The difference is interesting. You say, oh, well, then Yah's breaking Torah. He didn't get rid of her. Yah keeps taking her back like Gomer and Hosea. He's like, this whore is my whore. Like, it's like literally the added, like, I'm not giving up on her. And most of us would call any person, because we have brothers, cousins, and have been there, done that. We go, that person's dumb. That's how we think in our mind. Like, he keep letting her do da 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 da. And what Yah's saying is, I love Israel, and I'm pleading with her, and I want her to turn away from her ways. I'm doing everything. And I'm even telling, like, literally, doesn't the law say I shouldn't even be put up with you? You go and now I'm trying to plead with you with what you would consider to be gross. So often when we have these conversations about idolatry or paganism and these things, a lot of people want to deal with intellect. And what Yah is saying, when a person is gone mentally because they're so enthralled or they're so in love with the ways of the world or with the practices, intellect can't be appealed to. And you can see now this is being appealed to at a heart level. When a person says, oh, you don't have to keep the law. The shock factor of a person saying, well, would you want somebody to sleep with your husband? Oh, absolutely not. Why do you have that rule? Some people don't believe that that's a rule. Oh, she's a this, and this, or he's a so you do have rules. You do have boundaries. You do have love. You ask a person, oh, would you eat a mouse? Oh my gosh, a mouse. People who do that are disgusting. You're like, well, people feel like what you eat is disgusting. And we go, oh, dang. So what Yah is saying is, don't you think it's nasty? Haven't y'all been raised as gross? If a man sends his wife out and then she goes get married to another man and bring her back, isn't that just like, oh God, he took her back and she was out flaunting, married, then had a whole wedding, they was doing their thing, and then they broke up and y'all got back together? To most people, they're like, I don't want her no more. I don't want him no more. You left me and you went and been with Yah was like, for real? It's almost the same thing, if you want to see it in action, that Nathan did to David. He's like, a man had a little ewe lamb. And then a person had guests come and he was rich. He had a whole bunch of lambs. He took the little ewe lamb and slain that lamb. And he said, oh, that man should be put to death. Right? His judgment was correct. He said, that's you. That's what Yah is saying. Like, he wants them to, I want you to see that what you think and how you feel and how you would pass judgment on other people is the exact position you're in. Verse 2, he says, lift up your eyes and look at the high places. So imagine Jeremiah saying, all up there, y'all thought y'all was hiding from Yah, right? No social media. So Yah's giving him a download over there, that one, you got idols set up over here and this fort. Like, oh my God, people know we've been going to the Grove. Who saw us? Who told? I thought we had a pact. We wasn't going to tell. We was going to all do it. And then it wasn't like, who? Somebody got loose lips. He said, look up there. The word literally says there, when he says high places, they were going to the high place because they thought people in the city couldn't see them. And if you've ever been to the Judean hills, you can see how that could be a thought, right? He's like, look up there, but the word used here, he calls them bald places, meaning to my eye, it's like there's nothing up there to hide you. Look up there to those places where I can clearly see you. And he says, and he says, in the ways hast thou sat for them. So y'all don't ever not loop something back around the time. Know this word is written by him. So if you go back, I told you, look up a camel in heat. When a camel is in heat, when the female camel is in heat, and when camels mate, they actually mate sitting down on the ground. So he goes and he's like, to go further, to be like, not only did I see you, but I knew how you did it. Camels sit, the female camel sits and doesn't move so that the male camel can do what he's going to do. It's like, y'all don't even fight. You guys, in the ways hast thou sat for them as the Arabian in the wilderness, and thou hast polluted the land with your whoredoms and with your wickedness. Imagine. Therefore, the showers have been withholden, and there's been no rain. He's like, it's a drought now. Because the practices of Baal and Ashtaroth, specifically Baal. Baal is the god of like thunder and lightning and rain. That's why they worship these other gods, right? That was attachment. So he's drawing in all of these cultural and contextual things. So people would have orgies and they would worship Baal and they would cut themselves. And remember, Elijah, cut yourself, cry out, let the fire come down, let the water, remember that whole thing? That was part of the practice. They believed he was the god of like thunder. And so obviously if you follow that down, Baal is also Zeus and everything else that other gods just swarmed over. So there's an attachment to, he's like, you serve Baal, and he's like trying to get and evoke the gifts of Baal, like these nations say that their gods do. Oh, this stone stands for this, and this god stands for this. And if you don't do this, and how people know where the Christians are if you don't put up Christmas lights, like all these things, right? They're telling you that these are the things that these superstitions. He said, you did it so it would rain, and I'm not going to let it rain. How about that? What you think you're doing for other gods and how you think you're going to get blessed like the other nations, I'll stop it for you. I'll stop the rain from coming just to prove that you are working and doing something that is not right. I'll do the opposite of what their gods are supposed to do. Worship them if you want to. I'll make it not rain for nobody. And it goes back and it reminds you of, there's a couple of times, but specifically Jonah. Remember Jonah's on the boat? And Jonah's being disobedient to Yah, and he's going in a different direction. And the storm comes, and they're like, what is this? This looks like something from the gods. And Jonah he's like, man, you sleep, you don't see this? He's like, yeah, you ain't. It's because of me. Everybody, we're gonna die because you're not obeying your Elohim. He's like, if you want to stop, just throw me over. Jonah was like, I'll just die then. Gosh, you gonna just kill me then? Yah was like, nope, coop. Here comes a giant fish, giant whale to then come get you, right? That is what Yah is doing. He's like, I'm so your Elohim that I can't let you be blessed while you do these other practices. So then we have to pervert what blessing looks like, right? Then the blessing is then perverted. So people think they're being blessed. Oh, it was a good time. Did you? Because we don't attach those things together. So you don't see that going against Yah also is causing all these other things that are happening. Or because you haven't been judged and you felt like it was okay. Whew, made it through another year. They said this was pagan. Yah ain't killed me. Better be glad Yah is merciful and he loves you. Because he could for less, actually. And he's like, you're parading it in front of me like I don't see it, like I'm not doing something just because I love you. It's not because I'm soft. And I'm not weak behind you either, because he says, you do it. I'm about withholding the rain. He said, and then you have a whore's forehead. What he means is you are forward. You got your head held up high. You refuse to be ashamed. That was the whole point of the narrative. That was the whole point of Jeremiah's message, was that they would be ashamed of what they were doing. He said, and y'all still standing like I told you, they'd be like, so? Like just, and? You're stiff-necked, your stiff-neckedness, right? You're stiff-necked and you're hard-hearted. And you got your head raised high when it should be a shame, but you're severed in your mind because of your whoredom. You refuse to be ashamed about it. You do it proudly. You set up little penises all over your house because that is a phallic symbol. You do it proudly. You're like a person who is on OnlyFans, or he's like, you're literally, you don't care. I got money. I'm getting mine. I'm blessed. Thank God. That's the mindset. He's like, that's how you look. And so when we think about our sin, because we have an issue attaching things to an old time, we think it's antiquated. I'm putting in these terms so that you can see how your sin looks, because you look at people like that and you feel like they're detestable, and that's how Yah sees us. That's the equivalent of how we look, not just when we celebrate paganism, but when we are unrepentant in our heart. The same unrepentantness can be in a person's heart if you never put up a Christmas tree. I'm using those practices because they're happening right now. But in reality, your sin and your unwillingness to be transformed and your unwillingness to be made clean, and you wanting to do it on your own or try other ways, or because you don't eat meat or whatever, you feel like you've somehow reached this pinnacle, yet you're still in bondage in your mind and in your heart. What he's saying is, you look the same because you refuse to be ashamed. And it's not the kind of ashamed that he wants you to beat yourself up. He's like, I want you to stop. So will you not cry for this time? Will you not from this time cry unto me? At this point now, will you not be broken? I've laid it down. Like he said, the same way he told Jeremiah, I see you. He had to see Jeremiah so that Jeremiah can clearly see the people. Because don't think that Jeremiah was raised like this and didn't do the same things that were being done. Jeremiah got called, just like many of us. And now he sees clearly. He says, will you not from this time cry unto me, my father? You were my guide from my youth. Like that's how you should, right? I've always been that. And will you not say, right? He's saying, and will he reserve his anger forever? Is he going to keep it to the end? He said, but instead, behold, thou hast spoken and done evil, as evil things as you could. That's how he ends. He was like, this is where you should be. But instead, you've done as evil as you could think of. And Yah is like, you've done evil. And what's worse is that you've had punishment, but false theology made it impossible for you to make the connections toward your sin. That's what was standing between them and their repentance. And that's the same thing that's standing between people we love and the world and their repentance. They are not making these connections. It seems so clear once you're out of it, but it's hard to make these connections. And that's why they say they're innocent. And that's why Yah is saying you're doing all these evil things. And we're looking like Yah has forsaken us. And he's like, no, I haven't. But it's your priests and your prophets and your teachers and your preachers who are hearing from me. And they're not making the connection to you. And you're hearing from me, but you're not seeing any place to make the connection. In love and in loving kindness has Yah drawn us, right? Because it's difficult to make connections toward things when they directly impact us. But what Yah is showing is my love for you in sending the prophet Jeremiah is that I'm allowing the connections to be made, because they're making the connections as he's speaking. He's making it plain. He's talking about, he's preaching his butt off, right? Donkeys and camels and soap from Egypt and washing. He's working to try to get them to make the connection. But then after he preaches, guess what they're going to do? Somebody else going to get up and preach and say, that's not that. That's not that. Jeremiah lost his mind. He did. They're going to come behind and disrupt the connection. And so our prayer is that as Yah is pulling on hearts, because I've actually talked to people who said it was literally in the midst of me doing sin that Yah woke me up. Our prayer is that Yah's voice is heard clearly when the world seeks to drown it out, and that we don't become a stumbling block in the process, and that we show what's on the other side. Because if we give judgment and Yah's trying to draw them, we are also disrupting the connection. We got to make sure that we're hearing Yah clearly. Our job is to be light and salt. That niter, right, is a salt substance that also is responsible for cleansing. We are not the judge, and we don't have the final judgment. When the light comes on, we stand in the gap with Yah and we wash them toward repentance. We help them. We don't beat them toward it. Yah already said that don't work. He done told you his kids don't respond well to whoopings. They've been whooped already. So then listen to their father and see how you can be instrumental in the cleansing process of his wayward. The messages are there to cause them to be ashamed, but his hand is still stretched out. He's not rejected them altogether. He's saying, you've done everything so that I would, but I'm not, because I understand how everything is working against you mentally, physically, emotionally, traumatically. Like, he's seeing all of this, but he also is not going to say, I'm not going to turn my eye away from what you're doing, though. You have to allow me to do what I'm doing. And so our job is to say, yeah, where am I to be used in this process? Am I a mouthpiece? Am I a washer? Am I a prayer? Am I a welcomer? But nobody's a gatekeeper, but yeah, no one. And you can see how it'd be difficult to be in Jeremiah's shoes and have to say these things, but then also preach Yah and his love and his heart for their repentance. That's why he said to tear down, right? To shatter, to break, but also to plant and to build up. It has to be both. It has to be both. Yah is doing it in his word. He's gonna call it. He's doing it in people's hearts. Yah already just proven here. He's like, I hear what y'all thinking and what you're saying and what you're doing. I hear it. I got that part. But then here I am to remind you of what that looks like and how that is. And then to now see what you're going to do on the other side. Are you going to call and say, my father, my guide from my youth? Because I've been here and I know you've heard me. Don't let anybody convince you that you haven't heard from Yah. You knew. Guess what? His voice just got drowned out by everything else. No, you've been here. And he's like, and I need you to return to that place when you heard me like a child. And turn from your wicked ways. Repent and be saved. I will save you. I'll show up. Whew. All right. Next week we'll catch up on that next part of chapter 3. So we completed that whole portion of chapter 3, but I want you guys to be encouraged as we move throughout all times, not just through sometimes, but I know that the sensory impressions attached to certain times are harder. Just like certain relationships or certain people get us in ways that other things can't. Some time periods do the same thing, some family members and so forth and so on. So I want you guys to be encouraged. I want you to find ways to be a light, I want you to stand firm on Yah. Nobody's asking you to stand firm on your own power, because we're powerless against our enemy. It's one of the curses, right? So the reality is to stand firm in Yah and let Yah build us up and let him show. And I pray that he blesses, like he always has, the remnant for their ability to stand against all manners of wickedness, to be a light not only to their own families, but to all those who are onlooking. So I hope you guys have an amazing Shabbat. And I'm going to end the recording.